Get ready to take a dangerous ride down memory lane when cars were more metal than microchips and safety took a back seat to style. From impaling hood ornaments to neck-hugging seatbelts, these automotive relics left a trail of danger and innovation. Number 1. Water balloon bumper. Imagine a car equipped with giant water balloons that serve as bumpers. Well, this unconventional car feature that no longer exists was a real thing in the mid-20th century. Automakers, desperate to make their vehicles safer, hit upon a simple yet ultimately flawed idea: fill bumpers with water to absorb crash energy and protect passengers. In the 1950s, as concern for vehicle safety grew, major manufacturers like Ford, Chrysler, and General Motors experimented with this watery concept. The public's reaction was a mix of curiosity and skepticism. The thought was that upon impact, the water would displace and absorb the force of a collision, reducing the stress on the car's frame and its occupants. The truth, however, was far messier. The rubber and plastic materials used for these bumpers weren't durable enough for real-world collisions. They often ruptured, leaking their contents and leaving the vehicle exposed and unprotected. While water can absorb some energy, it was no match for the forces of a high-speed crash. As crash safety research advanced, engineers discovered far more effective solutions. The development of crumple zones, for example, which are specifically designed to deform and absorb crash energy, proved to be a far superior and more reliable way to protect passengers. This technological leap ultimately sealed the fate of the water balloon bumper, leaving it as a curious, if well-intentioned, footnote in automotive history. Number 2. Neck seat belts. During the 1960s, a fascinating and somewhat frightening idea emerged from the drawing boards of car manufacturers: neck seat belts. This speculative concept aimed to restrain the head directly to prevent whiplash during accidents. It was a daring experiment that bypassed traditional chest and lap restraints, focusing solely on the vulnerable connection between the head and body. Envisioning a seatbelt that would snugly embrace the neck, akin to a scarf, this was a bold attempt at innovation. However, despite the audacity of the idea, neck seatbelts never made it to the mainstream. They remained an obscure experimental concept that, while well-intentioned, was ultimately deemed too dangerous and impractical. The primary flaw was a chilling one. In a crash, the very device meant to protect a person could become a choking hazard. Thankfully, this concept was abandoned in favor of the much safer and more effective three-point seatbelt system we use today. Number 3. Non-collapsible steering columns. Before the late 1960s, automobiles were equipped with non-collapsible steering columns, rigid structures connecting the steering wheel to the front wheels. While these had been a standard component since the birth of the automobile, their inherent dangers were largely overlooked until a series of accidents brought them into sharp focus. The inflexible nature of these columns posed a significant risk to drivers in a collision. The force of an impact could propel the steering column forward, potentially impaling the driver and causing severe or fatal injuries. Unlike modern collapsible columns, these early designs had no mechanism to absorb energy, offering no buffer to mitigate the severity of a crash. Number 4. The swing-away steering wheel. The swing-away steering wheel, a peculiar innovation from the mid-20th century, was designed to make getting into and out of a vehicle easier. Introduced by Ford in 1961, this feature allowed the steering wheel to pivot out of the way, providing drivers with more room. However, this convenience came with serious risks. The mechanisms behind these devices were prone to mechanical failures, sometimes leaving drivers momentarily trapped when the wheel wouldn't return to its correct position. More critically, the possibility of the steering wheel moving accidentally while driving presented a significant safety hazard. As a result, the allure of this convenience faded in the 1970s, as safety considerations became the top priority for manufacturers. Number 5. Pop-out windshields. Next, we have another intriguing relic of automotive history: pop-out windshields. Introduced by the Tucker Automobile Company in 1948, this feature was designed to act as an emergency escape hatch, Using a spongy rubber gasket, the windshield was designed to pop out in a single piece during an accident, allowing passengers a safe exit. While the public was initially intrigued by the idea of an emergency escape, this concept came with significant dangers. In a severe collision, the sudden departure of the windshield could propel occupants outward, posing a serious risk of ejection. Number 6. Metal dashboards. In the early days of automotive design, there was a stark simplicity to the interior of a car. Metal dashboards were the standard, just cold steel with essential gauges and switches. There was no soft padding, no frills, and no fuss. Companies like Ford, Chevrolet, and Dodge embraced these unyielding designs. And early drivers were more focused on the marvel of motorized travel than the potential dangers. However, these minimalist dashboards were incredibly dangerous. In a collision, the unforgiving metal could act like a lethal weapon. Heads, knees, and chests would collide with the hard surface, resulting in severe injuries. Unlike today's cushioned, padded dashboards, these lacked any safety features to absorb impact. Number 7. Lap-only seatbelts. In the 1960s, the automotive industry introduced another new safety measure: lap-only seatbelts. These early seatbelts were a major step forward, a simple strap across the waist designed to keep passengers from being ejected through the windshield during a crash or sudden stop. While it seems basic now, this was a pivotal moment in vehicle safety, and the public's perception of seatbelts was beginning to change. Number 8. Lap-only seatbelts. In the 1960s, the automotive industry introduced a safety feature that was both revolutionary and flawed: lap-only seatbelts. These early seatbelts, a simple strap across the waist, were a major step forward, designed to keep passengers from being ejected during a crash. Companies like Ford and Chevrolet were among the first to offer them. However, these early seatbelts had significant flaws. They left the upper body and head completely unprotected, making passengers vulnerable to colliding with the dashboard, steering wheel, or windshield. Number 9. The absence of crumple zones. In the early days of the automobile, particularly before the 1960s, car frames were designed to be as rigid and solid as possible, a stark contrast to modern vehicle design. This era was defined by the absence of crumple zones, a critical safety feature we now take for granted. Back then, the public was largely indifferent to this missing safety element, and major manufacturers like Ford and Chevrolet built vehicles with unyielding frames. However, this design was dangerously flawed. In a collision, the rigid frame would transfer the full force of the impact directly to the vehicle's occupants, often resulting in severe injuries like broken bones and concussions. It was only after a growing body of research and the realization of these dangers that engineers began to design cars with strategically engineered zones that could deform during an impact, absorbing crash energy and protecting the passengers within. Number 10. The absence of crumple zones. During the 1960s, a crucial safety feature we now take for granted was completely missing from most cars: crumple zones. Automobiles of this era had unyielding, rigid frames, which were thought to be safer. However, this design was dangerously flawed. Instead of absorbing the impact of a crash, the solid frame would transfer the full force of the collision directly to the occupants. This often resulted in severe injuries, as there was no buffer to protect the passengers. By the 1970s, a new design philosophy emerged. Engineers began to strategically design cars with deformable zones in the front, rear, and sides. These zones were built to intentionally crumple during an impact, absorbing crash energy and protecting the people inside. This shift marked a profound change in automotive safety, prioritizing passenger well-being over the perceived strength of a rigid frame. As we look at today's cars, packed with safety features we now take for granted, it's a testament to the lessons learned from these dangerous experiments. Which of these old-school features surprised you the most? And what modern safety innovation do you think has had the biggest impact? Share your thoughts in the comments below.